Okay, we can go.
Yeah, we can go. This is Bud and Kevin.
Hey,
we're
how's
back.
it going? We are back for the 12-2 podcast.
A lot to talk about.
Man, things just keep happening. We live in interesting times. I keep saying that. Every week you think okay, it's going to settle down.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't.
Yeah. Do you think this prophecy stuff in the Bible is really real? If you never did, you better look twice now, right?
Right.
Daniel said things would start happening very quickly. Remember that? And as the time of Christ's return draws near, and who knows how many more podcasts we've got.
Who knows?
Hopefully this is our last one because we'll be raptured, right?
True.
Yeah. Hopefully.
If you're pre-trib.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's
true. If you're
true.
all millennial, you may be sticking around for a while.
We'll do a series on those if we're still around to do the series, right? If we're not around, we'll find out which one was right.
Well, I'm not a millennial. I was just, But anyway.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about which view is right. Yeah. I know where you stand. So Kevin, lots going on, man. Look, we're in North Carolina. We've seen devastation. You have property in the area that was so devastated.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Up near Boone and the West Jefferson area. Fortunately, it wasn't hit as hard as Asheville,
right?
And that part of Western North Carolina, but that area has been devastated. The company that Blue Ridge Electric sent out an email to us, and this will kind of give you an idea of the devastation. They have 8,500 miles of power lines. Wow. Okay, and they said that they can verify that 6,800 miles of those power lines were damaged due to this hurricane.
Oh my goodness.
And most of it was due to the flooding and stuff. So it's unbelievable. And
that's 80%.
Yeah.
I'm a really good mathematician, by the way, but that's 80%.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. I mean, I've seen people have sent us photos that from the area, and of course the river. We're riverfront, and it overflowed its banks and flowed over the road. And there's a guy across the river from us who had just built a house, and he had an indoor pool now because his basement, it flooded up to the first floor. It looks like from the photos, but and then roads that I've been on, and like traveling to Damascus, the road is wiped out. Yeah. And then, of course, with Asheville, it's, I-40 and what is it, 26? It's just gone. And those people are in tragic situations. And it's just been, I mean, the stories coming out where my heart breaks for the lady who took the photo of her parents and her child on the roof as they were waiting to be rescued. And before the rescue could get there, the house collapsed and she got caught in some debris and was able to be saved, but lost her family over that.
Oh my goodness.
And I have a feeling, I think what is it, death toll currently is less than
190.
Yeah, something like that. But they're going to find more.
They're going to find more.
Which is just tragedy. But we've seen the church move into action.
Yeah, we have, to the extent that the government's not trying to keep them out.
Right. And we've seen that FEMA has not quite gotten into action. I guess what, they'll give you $750, I think it was.
$750, I think. So
if you can apply for it.
If you can apply for it, yeah.
But they don't have any internet.
Right.
Elon with his Starlink system is trying to get it up and going, but the average person doesn't. We were told, because we're running up to check our property this weekend, and we were told that they can't take credit cards or anything. It's cash only because there's no service.
Right.
There's absolutely no internet service up there.
Sure.
So how are they supposed to apply for this?
Right.
This help.
Yeah.
And it is a tragic situation that our government can't take care of its own citizens because they've already spent the money on other countries' citizens.
Right, exactly. And of course, we're talking about largely Ukraine, for example, and the war there. And of course, you and I, you have in particular, and I have, both of us have, real interest in Ukraine.
Yeah.
I have a daughter that was born there.
Right.
One of your really good friends.
And I sit on a charity board that services Ukraine. And, my heart goes out to them. But, it's not only money spent there, money spent, fighting all these wars due to weak leadership, I believe.
Yeah.
But it's also
Yeah.
they took FEMA money and did
Right.
for immigrants coming into the country. They gave it to them. Well, that FEMA money is for when things like this happen.
Exactly. That's why we don't have it $750 a person in North Carolina. Right.
Right. And it's going to take billions and billions. And I was talking to my father, I look at it because, I look at this mountain community and specifically West Jefferson, but, and in the last couple of years, there had been an explosion of growth in the downtown area. There had been lots of small businesses, new shops, coffee shops, restaurants that had just come into the, come into that downtown area. And I'm looking at it going, you're not making money your first couple of years of business, usually when you have a small business. And now they've been devastated.
Yeah.
And the tourist season, which is coming up with fall and the fall colors, there's not going to be that because people aren't going to go to the mountains. So you have all that loss of income, and most of those businesses, I don't think are going to even make it. It's going to set it back 20 years. That whole section,
for the most part, they're small volume. If you look at the total scope of the year, like you said, a lot of it's seasonal, low margin type businesses where you've got to depend on the volume. And that's a sad place to be.
Yeah. And I know a lot of them, it's people who, hey, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to retire. I'm going to, pour my life savings into, having a business so I can live up in the mountains. And now that's just gone. And I don't know if it's going to take years and years for them to get back. And so our hearts go out to them. And I know that we at Integrity were,
we're doing a lot. We're doing. We got people already scheduled to go. Baptist on Missions, Samaritan's Purse. We got people going with Samaritan's Purse. My wife and I are looking in. We're probably going to schedule something here in the next, couple of days for sometime in the next couple of weeks. And I know of a number of people that are going to be doing that. And I think this is going to be an example where we truly see the goodness of the American
public,
people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think they'll come around religion, regardless of religion, regardless of political persuasion for the most part, I think. And I think we're going to see some pretty good stuff coming out of this.
Yeah. And we've seen the church mobilize. This is what, this is one of the purposes of the church, is to go out and help our fellow human beings who are hurting and in tragic situations, and then to share the love of God because of what He's done for us.
Right. Yeah. You talk about the money thing, and I can't help but think we're in an election season, obviously. And think about all the money you hear that is going into the coffers of candidates all around the nation in order to get elected when, again, we talk about money going to Ukraine. Well, let's talk about money going to media companies and in who knows pockets, right? Because that's what we have unfortunately allowed our electoral system to devolve into. And so there's another example of how something that's so subtle as that. I wonder how often we think, is there something wrong with this where a candidate needs $100 million just in a Senate race to be elected?
Which is mind blowing. It's more than, and it shows it shows how much power is involved with that.
It does.
Because you're never going to return on investment for what a senator makes. You're going to spend $100 million.
Most of them never made a payroll. There is no return on investment with a lot of these people.
So it's all about power is what it ultimately is. And my father-in-law was famous for saying, the golden rule: he who makes the gold makes the rule. So money and power. If you got money, you can get power, and if you have power, you can get money. Vis-a-vis Nancy Pelosi's husband, who just was able to sell Visa right before the DOJ launched a lawsuit against him.
Oh, what a coincidence.
He's an excellent stockbroker.
What a coincidence that must have been, right? Yeah, exactly. But this is and I think the other part of that, Kevin, is one of the reasons this money goes into that process is we kind of look at that as citizens as, you know what, they think that they can throw money and do flashy ads and do this and that and the other, and that's going to convince us to do whatever they want us to do by virtue of those media, that they're putting out there for us.
Right.
So I think that on the flip side, while we might be complaining, as I am about the money thing,
Right.
I do also believe in the natural laws of supply and demand, and where things are effective, you're going to invest more money, and it tells me that what, they're needing more money because we're a gullible public. We will believe those flashy things. We will believe the things that are taken out of context, which so much. I think that's one of the requirements of political ads, probably, right?
But, of course, is to take things out of context. Yeah. And it also kind of speaks to what has happened with media, with social media and stuff. I mean, at one time, there was 3 television stations. So you just bought airtime on that. Today, how do you find your target? I mean, I hear ads on Pandora. You can't get to Google without getting a political ad. I can't even go a day without getting 3 or 4 text messages from different political candidates.
You just get 3 or 4?
Well, I probably get more than
I
that.
get those in about an hour.
but that all takes a lot of cash.
Yeah,
and it's amazing that these companies, these billion-dollar companies, are just getting rich off of the political season.
They are.
They are. People and parties trying to convince us to vote for them. And, so it's kind of it's a sad situation. And then you have a whole section of the country that is in dire need.
Right.
And I'm waiting for Google to kick a little cash over to help these people. But,
exactly.
These are the people that, for the most part, throughout history, have been kind of ignored and left alone.
Yeah. For the most part.
Yeah. I mean, and it's kind of sad. So.
But I think virtue will be displayed. We'll see virtuous people will be those who are going to try to help. They're going to put whatever other things they've got going behind,
right?
And they're going to help. Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, what he's doing with
Starlink.
With Starlink is a huge deal, and there are others.
Yeah,
and there will be others. We saw Trump, trudging through the waters, right?
Right. He started a fundraising page that's already raised $4 million. Yeah. And I know that he was, he'd gathered a bunch of supplies and had already gone to someplace in Georgia that had been terribly hit and wiped out. But
and I'm not one that thinks that I would not have expected FEMA to have assets on the ground everywhere in that area right before this happened. But certainly, there are assets there. That are available.
Right. Well, they got, is it, Fort Freedom now? I can't remember since they changed the name of Fort Bragg.
Fort Bragg. It's called Liberty.
Which, that's it. Yeah.
Which is the most, so how idiotic can you be?
They have the 82nd Airborne that could have been there. I mean, could have been deployed within 24 hours.
Yeah. Oh,
to help.
Yeah, within less than that, probably.
Oh, yeah.
With these folks.
But I guess that's hard to do when you're sitting on the beach in Delaware or you're at a fundraiser in California. So.
Probably, yeah. But when you think all you got to do is drive across state, right?
Right.
You think about that.
Yeah.
So. Could have been there in no time, but for the most part.
Anyway.
Well, speaking of government stuff, we had another event this week, right? We had what many people have said in the past to be kind of irrelevant in an election cycle. It is called a vice presidential debate, right?
Yes, we did. I got to watch the whole thing.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
That's good. I was kind of good.
Interesting.
I want to hear your thoughts on it because I was coming home from the airport in Charlotte, and I've decided that I don't like to listen to those things on the radio because I believe the facial expressions are so critically important.
They were classic on this one.
And when I saw some of the excerpts that night when I got home, I was like, I was right. I'm glad I did not listen to this on the radio.
Oh, man, it was like a haven for meme creation was the facial expressions in this thing. It was tremendous. You know, you think about vice presidential debates and they're inconsequential.
Do we think? Yeah, I was going to say, do we really think about those things?
The only two that I can think of that had that I can remember is the fact when the fly landed on Pence's head and stayed there for like half the debate or his hair or something. Yeah, I think. And then of course Dan Quayle and Lloyd Bentsen. Lloyd Bentsen said, "You are no Jack Kennedy," and that kind of just destroyed Quayle's political career after that.
After he made it to the vice presidency, but it didn't make it any further, right?
No further than that. Yeah, just on that. But other than that, this was one of the best. Debates that I've had a Republican candidate, sit there and watch a Republican candidate since being a kid and watching Reagan. Probably he J.D. Vance, you can tell, is a very intelligent man, well-spoken. Of course, as a believer, as a biblical Christian and someone who believes the Bible,
right.
I do not appreciate the stance that they've taken on abortion, but on all the other stances that he had, he was excellent.
Yeah, he really was.
Yeah, and you could tell that poor Tim Walz was a little bit out of his league.
Yeah, and I think that obviously one of the things that helped Vance so much is the fact that he and President Trump have done so many interviews, so many rallies, and they're out there. And you and I both know, because you and I we've done public speaking all of our lives as far as back as we can remember. But when we haven't done it for a while,
it can be tricky.
It can be tricky getting back into it, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so while I appreciate Walz's demeanor, I mean, I thought he too was courteous from what I could tell. They were both
very courteous.
The guys were very civil, and I thought, man, this is what a fresh change this is,
and they discussed policy.
They discussed policy. Yeah.
Of course, J.D. Vance, of course, had the power of the beard, which
is
very, very important.
Because the guys with you like beards, Politico says that you all are off-putting to women.
Right. We can be a little aggressive, we exude too much masculinity, I guess it was that Politico said that the beard does, but there's power in the beard.
Once ladies in your office and your business, Kevin, realize that Politico says that beards should be off-putting to women, you're probably going to have some resignations among your employees. I want you to know that, right?
Okay.
Just be ready, So
my wife likes the beard.
Well, okay. Well, she's your best employee.
She is quitting working for me.
Not because of your beard, I hope.
No, it's because of school.
Okay. All right. I got you. Good for that. So on the policy fronts, I from what I could tell, again, I've seen some excerpts, not the whole thing. Is there anything where you felt like talking about Vance, was really not prepared?
No. Everything, every question that was asked, he had an answer, and he was very good at getting his message across about the policy. And then, what I found very interesting is I don't think he said Joe Biden's name once. He basically said the Harris administration, the Harris administration, which it is.
It pretty much is.
Yeah. So, and even like when they talked about the hurricane, I think the second question was about the hurricane, and they didn't talk about the devastation. They didn't talk about how to prepare for the hurricanes or how to get FEMA, more action. What should the government's role be in disaster relief? None of that. They said, we've seen this tragic hurricane. So, and some scientists say this is due to climate change. How are you going to change the climate so that we don't have any hurricanes anymore? And he deftly, he was so skillful in turning that question and not getting caught in, saying something so they could be called a climate change denier, because let's be honest, the climate is
always changed, and it will change.
It's always changing. I mean, it's not been too long ago. I mean, we're talking 500 years ago that there were glaciers in Maine. Okay. So the climate has always changed. They used to grow wine in England back in the Middle Ages. They can't grow grapes now in England,
right?
Because it's not warm enough. So there has been the climate changes, and man-made climate change. We have very little control of the climate. It is so much controlled by what happens with the sun, what happens with volcanoes can change the climate, and so he was so deft at going, hey, the climate's always changing.
Right. And
the best thing that we can do as a country to affect climate change, if we begin with the presupposition that somehow that man-made carbon has any impact on the climate, the best thing that we can do is to bring those manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. because we do it cleaner here than they do in China or other countries where they don't care about clean water. They don't care about clean air. Yeah. We do.
And it's funny you say that, because in doing that, he linked. Because here's what happens a lot of times in progressive politics these days. We look at things in a vacuum, right?
Yeah,
and we see things. We look at an individual thing without considering the implications of repercussions
right.
in other sectors of society. And what he did there was obviously talked about the cause and effect across these sectors, right?
Yeah.
Went from the environmentalist type of movement to, or the philosophy there, into into commerce, right?
Oh, yeah.
Into industry. And so, and that's one of the things that I think we see with that more perhaps mature, methodical, thoughtful, analytical approach, which, by the way, is what we espouse by the name 12-2 podcast, as opposed to the emotional outburst that seems to be just dominating the landscape, particularly on the progressive side, and to a degree also on the conservative side as well. So it was refreshing to know that type of approach is what really probably is a secret to what won the debate. I mean, most people say he won the debate hands down. And not that Walls did a bad job, but when you're I just kind of feel like when you don't have any principles to stand on, there's nothing to defend. When you have to defend abortion, when thou shalt not kill is somewhere in probably 90 to 95% of the minds of the viewers,
right? How
can you defend that? And one of the commentators afterwards, I was watching after the debate was over, they talked about how the fact that clearly, Vance won on the economy and on the border, Walls won on abortion, and I'm thinking,
no, he didn't.
What an oxymoron!
Right?
Win on abortion. There is no win on abortion.
Right? Because it's just mind blowing because they take that and say, equate it with healthcare when the end result is the death of a human being.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
It's almost like, if you go back to 150 years ago when they're arguing about slavery, it's like, oh, Lincoln won on the question of the economy, but, Douglas won on the issue of slavery,
Yeah, right.
I mean, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's about human life.
Yeah.
It's about, are we, and bottom line is, are we created in the image of God, or are we just accidents of nature? If we're accidents of nature, then we can justify abortion. If we are created in the image of God, then that means that every human being is God ordained, and we don't have the right to destroy it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's not our right, especially innocent human life.
Right.
And they said, my body, my choice. Okay, let's back that train up just a little bit. How many, what about the body of the child?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too, my body, my choice, you made the choice.
Yeah.
You made the choice when you chose to engage in what was likely, not always, and there could have been something criminal, who knows, but when you chose to engage in illicit sexual activity, that was beyond the realm of what God's word calls for.
Biblical Christianity.
Yeah, and usually these things come out of extramarital, non-marital sexual encounters, and you and I both are firm believers in that God's word prohibits, any type of sexual activity outside of marriage between a man and woman.
And the reason for that was for the betterment of human survival, human life. It's because if you have a committed man and a committed woman, the child has somebody that's has two people immediately that is committed to taking care of them, and protecting them, and making sure that they can have the best chance at life as possible when you have that. And so it's not a matter of, hey, I don't want you to have any fun or whatever the case. It's about human fulfillment, which we see in committed families. You can have human fulfillment. It's unfortunate that sin comes in and messes up everything. Sin just messes up everything. It messes up relationships. It messes up all kinds of relationships. And we see that blatantly. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, there's a lot of perversion that's going on in the world today.
Oh, you think?
And we've seen it. I mean, we've seen it with Epstein, and now we're getting a front row seat to it with P. Diddy. And the debauchery and the broken lives that occur with that.
And I think let's go back for you and
Yeah.
you and I were blessed, right? You and Kim and Tammy and I were both blessed that we grew up in homes where we know without a doubt that our parents who had multiple children, right?
Yeah.
Lived their lives for us, for their children,
Right.
Yeah, and they did that. We don't see that nearly as much today. We see parents living for themselves.
And that is sad.
We see the kids being afterthoughts, and just the way that because sex has become such something just thrown around and devalued, children that come out of that, even when they're carried, right? Oftentimes, they're second class citizens in their own family.
Yeah.
When that's the exact opposite of what God's word tells us in terms of our parenting, and how incredibly important that we need to prioritize that parenting function. So yeah, this is a crisis. I mean, this is a huge crisis.
It truly is, and it's very interesting because and that was the one thing that I did not like about the debate was, of course, J.D. Vance has to take Trump's position on the abortion, in which is Trump's basically said, I'm leaving it up to the states, which is better than what we had.
It is.
Right.
It is. Sure.
But the problem with that is, and I think there's this hope that if we as Republicans kind of moderate on this abortion question, that we will gain more people to support us. And what's very interesting is, of course, according to Gallup, who's been surveying for like 30 years, people's opinion on abortion really doesn't change that much. It changes a couple of points. But what we've seen is which side can get their voter out the most. Most Democrats most progressives, most people who have rejected God and who rejected the idea that man is created in the image of God, that they think that we are a naturalistic person, they're not going to change their minds on abortion, and they're not going to come over to our side. And what has happened by the Republicans kind of equivocating on this abortion issue is they are discouraging Bible-believing evangelical Christians to vote. So I think it's a poor strategy, if you want to say. I mean, I just saw where Melania Trump had made a quote about abortion and how she supports it. And, and I'm just like, why do you keep...
Yeah, why even go there?
But why do you keep bashing the group that wants to come out and vote for you, but you're giving us reasons not to? Now, I'm going to say, in the whole scheme of things, if you have a Trump administration, you're going to be much more pro-life, and we're going to save a lot more babies than if you have a Kamala administration. They want to have abortion legal up until the moment of birth, and if they botch that abortion, they still want the baby to be left to die. And you say, well, they don't believe that. Yes, they do.
Well, there's legislation in Minnesota, right?
Walls signed legislation which specifically says that the doctor only has, if a baby's born alive, he only has to offer care. They just don't define what care is. Is it palliative care? We're going to just sit here and make sure it's comfortable as it dies. They took out the fact that he had to offer emergency care in order to try to save his life.
Life-saving care,
yeah.
And so, are there any statistics on that? I mean,
I know that they say, oh, that never happens. Well, since he signed that legislation, which I think within the past few years, there's been 8 cases where babies have been born alive after a botched abortion,
and then left
to die in Minnesota.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's the record that he has to defend. That's what they're supporting. That's what they're calling for. That's what people are being brainwashed, fooled into voting for, because they say, hey, my body, my choice, women's health care is on the line if I don't vote for that. No, what you're voting for is the right to kill a baby.
Yeah, that's really what you're doing. And we got to leave it there. But man, that's important. That's critical. So we'll do this again soon.
We'll do this again soon.
And there will probably be some brand new things that we can talk about at that point.
Man, right? I'm somewhat excited to see what's going to happen.
I am too. Look, I'm excited to get to go out west. So I hope everything's well. I hope everything's good for you and all the folks. A lot of folks I know have property out that way, and it's a big deal. So thanks.
So anyway, well, hope you liked it.
Yep.
Like us, follow us, tell your friends. We appreciate it. Appreciate you giving us the time. God bless.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.